far, they have conducted themselves well. For now, they have conducted themselves very well. But I wouldn't say what will happen in the next few hours. That's why I cannot draw a conclusion for now until the elections come to an end.
In her arms, was given a seat to relax while the officials were setting up. So I found that also very good. It means that the CVE, the Continuous Voter Education, is working. People know those who are for priority voting, and they are following the rules accordingly.
Meanwhile, candidates of the PDP and the ADC who cast their votes early in the day expressed concerns over the conduct of the exercise. The PDP governorship candidate decries alleged voter intimidation, while the ADC flag bearer raises concerns over vote buying.
My observation is that the APC members, they are bringing money here to distribute at the polling booths. And yes, we saw them. And they're still doing it right away. They're doing there. They're doing it.
The security operatives are here. What are they doing?
Yes, I've alerted them, but they're not doing anything.
So what's your take on the turnout of voters?
The turnout is impressive, but it's been marred by these malpractices of distributing money. Yes, I'm calling the security agents to be up and doing and come here so that they can stop them from distributing money. It's not part of the electoral guideline to distribute money.
People have been here for about 1.5 hours and only 5 people have voted in my polling unit. That's what they do all the time. So I am suspecting that there's something wrong with the INEC process. I'm going to hang around. If they are voting 5 people per hour, that is sad. Something is wrong. They have called the RATEC for the last 45 minutes. He hasn't been here. You cannot enfranchise these people. It is sad for democracy in Nigeria.
Amid the exercise, the incumbent and candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Mr. Abiodun Oyebanji, cast his ballot in Ekiti West local government area alongside his wife, Mrs. Olayemi Oyebanji. The governor, who later addressed the press at his residence in Ikogosi, commended President Bola Tinubu for amending the Electoral Act.
There is a saying that a farmer who has diligently tilled the ground do not need to fear the day of harvest. Do you understand? We've campaigned in Ekiti. We've been in the saddle for close to 4 years. We have served our people diligently. And today is the day of harvest. Those who have not done anything, who have not sown anything, have every cause to fear. I've not heard of cases of intimidation. I've not heard of cases of inducement. But people must give reasons for failure, especially in pending failure.
As voting progresses across the state, security presence remains strong in most local government areas visited, with no major incidents reported so far and electoral activities continuing under close monitoring.
Let's get you some facts, figures, and some patterns as how this exercise went today. I'm being joined by the Executive Director of Yaga Africa, Mr. Samson Itodo. Samson, how are you today?
Very well.
Welcome to the program.
Very fresh. It looks like you didn't go out today. But
my looks and my state of mind are totally different.
Completely different.
Well, what a day.
What a day.
Would you say that everything went the way you thought or predicted as an organization?
I think to a large extent, everything went really well. And this is what elections should look like in some cases, because it was peaceful. Yeah, there were cases of violence, but I'll say to a large extent, it was in a very peaceful atmosphere. And I'm sure when we go into the data, we clearly see how today fared. But I'll say to a large extent, we have to commend the people of Ekiti for the way they conducted themselves in a very peaceful manner. But of course, when we look at other manifestation of voting behavior, I think there are concerns that we have to express as it relates to what were the incentives, for coming out to vote, and whether the choices that people made, it's not as a result of any influence by voter inducement or vote buying. But one thing that's quite rampant today was this vote buying and And that was really unfortunate, I must say. But to a large extent, I think if you want to look at this either from the aspect of logistics, we'll say yes, commendably, this process had gone really well. Before the elections at Yaga Africa and our other partners, there were 3 tests that we're going to use to evaluate this entire process. The first one was a preparedness test. To what extent is INEC prepared, managing logistics, opening of polls? As you would see from the data, it speaks for itself that there was a marked improvement. So to a large extent, I think INEC passed that preparedness test. So far, so good. The collation processes are on, and which takes us to the next test, which is the transparency test, and how the results have been managed from the polling units to the wards, the local government level. I'm sure in a short while we will see what's happening to the IREV, but we can say that to a large extent there's some level of transparency. But we look forward to how this ends. And then also the conduct of security agencies in terms of their neutrality. So on the whole, we must commend all the stakeholders for how far they've conducted themselves.
I think it's a journey. It's not a destination. Absolutely. And whatever has happened today, we should be able to take some lessons, albeit hoping that everything is fair.
They're good, and there's somewhat negative lessons. For instance, when you look at the turnout, at this moment we're not in a position to make projections as to turnout, but I'd say based on observation, as we had predicted yesterday, when we thought that we were going to be shocked by the people of Ekiti having recorded 97.1% PVC collected. At the end of the day, the turnout does not match the numbers of PVCs collected, which raises a lot of questions and concerns.
About the reality of the collection of the permanent voters card. That's right. Because you want to ask yourself, what have they done with the PVCs they've collected?
Yeah, that is if the PVCs are actually in the hands
of the
rightful owners.
But let's look at some of the patterns. Of course, we'd like to let our viewers know that China Television and Yaga Africa are partnering on what we call the ERA 2.0, the process of exposing and monitoring the result as it comes into the IREV by INEC. Well, first and foremost, let's look at some of the patterns and some of what you need to know as far as this election is concerned. We told you about the ERAD, which relies on INEC's IREV, and we already know just how many results have gone into the IREV and how much of that we are able to crunch and process and verify for the ERAD so that it can make sense in patterns, in graphs, in map, all of the results that have come in so far. So Samson, yes, we said yesterday what ERAD stands for, what it will do for you, not only now in Osun, in 2027 election, and those who were asking what exactly is the surprise, they wanted to provoke me to say it. They went after me on social media to want me to say what exactly we have in 2027. We've got it on lockdown. 2027, I bet you any politician who wants to rig the election should think twice.
I'm glad that you're not letting the cat out of the bag.
I'm not going to let it. All right. So we said it.
Yeah, I think
what it's not what it is.
Reiterate that the election results analysis dashboard, it's not INEC and it does not declare results. As we will see in a short while, that the results are based on results that are already in the public space. Results that INEC has published via the INEC election results viewing portal, which is what we have taken, and we're bringing it right to the homes of Nigerians and those who are out across the world. So it does not declare results. INEC is the responsible institution that declares results. So what we are simply doing
by law,
we bring basically,
as far as Nigeria is concerned, what happens in Kenya, in South Africa, in Ghana, and in the US and in the UK are totally different legal frameworks, different from Nigeria.
Absolutely.
But in Nigeria, as far as the constitution, which empowers INEC to conduct and declare winner in an election, and the electoral law which says they are the only authority that will declare a result and a winner in an election. But what we are doing is, whatever that is made available in the public as far as the announcement of the result at the polling unit is concerned, documented in the IREF, is what we're crunching, and we are bringing the technology to bear to expose the result and put it in a manner in which you will understand and enjoy. That's what we're doing for you. So, Young Africa, of course, sent out several observers for this election. That's what we call the PVT, monitoring how early the compliance to the process and all of that. And there's a lot that we can make sense of. But in terms of how early INEC officials scored at the polling unit, this is what we know, right?
For this is the observers, right? So on the PVT, by 8:30 or 8:30 a.m. today, 96% of observers were already on the field. What that tells you,
8:30 a.m., which is the kickoff time.
That's the kickoff time. And so when we flip, you will see this is how it fared across Ekiti today. When you look at, when accreditation and voting commenced by 8:30 a.m., that's in Ekiti Central. Ekiti Central. That by
73% of the
73% of polling stations or polling units, accreditation and voting already commenced. When you go to Ekiti North, in 65%, in Ekiti South, you have 64%. What it tells you is that there was early commencement of accreditation and voting. And as you would see subsequently, when we compared the data between 2022 and 2026, it is obvious that there was a marked improvement in the way INEC managed logistics in this election compared to 2022.
So give it to INEC. Where you get it right, we'll give you a pass mark.
And
on this one, give INEC a pass mark. They did better than 4 years ago.
Absolutely.
If they did worse than 4 years ago, it's like a student who never learned anything. But they did better this time around.
On arrival,
we will get to where they did wrong. But on this one, INEC did well because they were able to surmount their logistical problems.
Absolutely.
And they brought it to bear. Early arrival compared to last year, over 90% overall in those who called in, officials who got to the polling unit at 8:30 a.m.
It's quite impressive that at this election we're talking about logistical challenges. And so I think this should be a template that INEC will adopt moving forward. As you can see, by 8:30 a.m. in 68% of polling units, the officials had arrived, and by 10:30, virtually across the entire state, you had accreditation and voting in the state. So this is accreditation and voting. Now, when you look at 2022, this is what data tells us, like I mentioned. Compared to 2022, in 2022, from the sampled polling units that the IGA Africa covered, INEC officials or accreditation and voting had commenced only 24% of polling. So when you compare 2022 and 2026, this is what you call an astronomic.
Give it to INEC.
So
good one. To INEC. Logistics used to be INEC's problem. The Achilles heel of INEC.
At least in this election.
Yes, in this election, they've got, and if they can keep up the pace. All right. Maybe Professor Joash Amubiton learned logistics and management with law, but then it's coming to bear. Whatever that they've done, whatever lessons they've learned, it has worked. I don't want to care how they did it, but what they've done is what we need to applaud. On this one, massive improvement from 24% 4 years ago to 68%.
And by 1 hour later,
99%, virtually all the polling units.
Virtually all the polling units. Well, of course, this has to do with materials, election materials. There can be no election without materials. So when you look at the deployment, you see where, with the ballots, papers, but what we try to focus on issues around disability. And you can see that election materials clearly shows that the from EC40H, which is used for tracking the data for persons living with disability in this election, was observed and seen in 78% of polling units that we covered. And then for the PWD poster, which is the poster for persons living with disability. What this also says is that to a large extent, that INEC did fulfill its commitment to advance the inclusion of persons living with disability. And I think that it's actually kudos to them. However, there were cases where there were shortages of ballot papers. In one of the polling units, when you look at the ballot papers, ideally they have 100 ballot papers. Some of them were short either by 10 or by 4. Unfortunately, the presiding officers didn't count the ballot papers at commencement, which is what they should have done. And that created a lot of computational issues in that particular polling unit. I think that's something that INEC needs to take when it trains its officials, but also confirm your sensitive materials to be sure that in each bundle you have 100 ballot papers.
And let everyone know that indeed out of 250 polling units, only two
yes,
did not open by or report at 12 noon.
And that's to mention, this is a representative sample, because what Yaga Africa does with the PRVT is we deploy to a representative sample of polling units. And that particular methodology and that deployment is representative. And so whatever data that Yaga Africa releases from the PRVT, it's a true representation of what could have transpired statewide.
In the larger context. So, deployment of BVAS.
Yes.
Of the 2% of the polling units had 2 or more BVAS devices deployed.
Yeah.
That means they were ready for any eventuality. 4% of BVAS accreditation count was not shown to voters. To confirm it was set to 0 before the start of accreditation.
Now, this is a violation of INEC's regulations and guidelines, because what the presiding officers should do upon opening of a polling unit, they need to show the public and those at the voting at the polling unit that there was 0 record on the BVAS. It is transparency. It deepens the credibility of the process. But in 4% of polling units, we discovered that the presiding officers didn't display the BVAS for the public and the voters to view.
And the idea is that so that it is not preloaded.
Preloaded, yes.
And the results or whatever is not predetermined.
Yes,
and that's
this. Even though it's 4%, it might not be statistically significant, but it hits
a breach. Is a breach.
Not just the guidelines, but it could cast doubt on the credibility of the process.
All right. Also, we're talking about the performance of the BVAS. 96%.
Yeah. This is remarkable. This is remarkable.
So if this is what the PVT is telling us, that means that there is a huge improvement. Yes. Although we caught on camera in one of the polling units that we covered here on Channels Television, where we saw live that as of 8:30 a.m.
Yes.
The error code reads on the BVAS saying you cannot enter into the BVAS or get information or get the process started because it's not yet time. And it started at 8:30 a.m. and closed at 10 p.m. And of course, he didn't allow them, and he was telling them, he alerted them to call on a technician to help fix it. But I mean, a few people also made that complaint. But what I saw enormously in half of the time that they accredited people was that once they tried to take a biometric, the picture of an the biometric the facial recognition feature in the BVAS, he was failing. So they resorted into manual process, sending them back to the official who had a manual register. I saw this a lot of the time. They try, because you have to have your thumbprint, then your card is about 3 layers of verification. Your card, your PVC, your thumb, which is the biometric feature, then the facial recognition feature. That had a lot of problem. And a lot of older people were complaining that they were not being recognized. In fact, there was a lady we caught on camera who was asked to go and wash her face because maybe she had makeup, because it wouldn't recognize. And a lot of aged and elderly people were not recognized. That was a major problem that I personally saw.
I think it's a fundamental problem. The truth is, when you look at our entire voter data management system, there are impurities that need to be fixed. For instance, you talked about facial recognition. You talk about fingerprints. These are fundamental issues with our voters register. Even if the beavers performed in 96%, the fact that you've got 4% where you recorded these challenges, I think it's a problem. And the reason why it's a problem is, in an election, no voter should be disenfranchised or not allowed to vote by virtue of a logistical challenge that they didn't contribute to. We must uphold the right, to vote. So these issues are issues INEC really needs to address about the configuration of the beavers machines, even though the guidelines provide that when a beavers fails, you ought to replace the beavers, with that beavers that malfunctions. Because technology has its own vulnerability. Sometimes it can fail. But the challenge and the problem is when there's intentional manipulation of the technology to undermine the participation of voters. That is where you have a fundamental problem. But whether it's 4 or 2 or 3%, I think that INEC needs to really fix these issues about beavers verification.
It has to be fixed. So what I've seen, and anybody you can verify these with any of the gadgets you own. A lot of the gadget, based on how they were made, could be very sensitive to touch, to light. So sometimes if you have a digital door in your house, and sometimes it refuses your fingerprint, and you will have to use other means. And sometimes even your phone, you have to remove your glasses, clean your face. Sometimes if the sensitivity level of such a gadget is high. So a lot of the times, maybe the maker, and a lot of lessons INEC need to also learn that the sensitivity, don't let us deceive ourselves. Something. The cameras that we're using right now are originally made for white people. And a lot of the sensitivity of this lens, the understanding in the head of the technology is that it's going to see a white person. So you have to adjust the lens to see the black man. So a lot of this technology needs to adjust to our temperature, because you remember what happened to the Z-Pad. They were getting hot and it shut down at the time. So these technologies need to be worked upon so that it adjusts to our nature, our environment, the texture and the complexion of the Nigerian people. So that in 2027, all of this sensitivity, just imagine some of these complaints are widespread. It could cause a major crisis.
I pray it's not widespread in subsequent elections. But yes, I agree.
But the PDP candidate complained. He literally got upset. Right? And he was he saw it, he was leaving. He was walking off and saying, this is rubbish and nonsense. And he walked off to say, these things were rejecting people's recognition, and he was not able to verify people.
This is why there's a great need. We've always called for an audit of the beavers. And an audit, a public audit, would really inspire trust and confidence on the voters. I agree we need to decolonize these technological tools. But one critical point is what happens when it fails. If there's recourse to manual accreditation, then that is against the rule and the guidelines and our laws, because it is very clear that for you to vote, you must be accredited using the beavers. That's what Section 47 of the Act clearly provides. So if any presiding officer or any election official accredited voters or bypass the beavers, I think that calls for very strong, sanctions, and it, to a large extent, will undermine the credibility of the election from that particular polling unit. And if it's not widespread, we cannot say it substantially impacts on the overall outcome.
96% of performance beavers recorded by the PVT. Deployment of polling officials, how good did INEC perform?
Well, I think they performed very well. But one thing that we also found, if you check, that we actually noted that generally there were 3 officials in the polling unit. But INEC guidelines says 4 officials. So what happened to the 4th official? Could it be that there were issues around recruiting manpower, for this particular election? Because listen,
or budgetary issues.
Don't try this in the 2027 election.
Yeah, I'm saying maybe it's budgetary issue. You may not say.
Yeah, because INEC also had budget issues prior to.
So because, there are complaints about the release of funds. Yes, INEC is on the first line charge in terms of budgetary allocation.
Yeah.
But the fact remains that if there are 4 people, meaning that there will be 4 people to be paid to do the job. So if there are 3 people instead of 4 people, it might also be financial or economic issues that might have affected it. INEC need to explain that.
But you know what also happened was that in most polling units, there wasn't order and there wasn't crowd management because the officials were actually small in number. Because ideally, you have a queue controller. You can't do this in a presidential election where you have majority of voters actually showing up. You definitely record more turnout compared to governorship or off-cycle elections based on the electoral trends. So having 3 presiding officers first is against
4.
That's against 4.
And there is a sense behind designing 4 people to man each polling unit.
So I think
what happened
needs to explain what
a lot of explanation.
And I'm sure that perhaps there might be some administrative reasons behind this, but it also created some confusion in some of the polling units because crowd control wasn't
in some of the polling units. 16% of them are 2 officials.
2 officials. So I think something is actually wrong somewhere. Yes.
So deployment of party. This is where I've got a grouse with political parties who, at the end of the day, they complain a lot, but they have little or no power in themselves to be able to monitor all the process because the agents are the eyes of the political parties on the ground.
That's right. Well,
so
you see,
this is what we discovered.
I think the 2 major parties did actually 3 now did deploy to a great number of polling units. You can see the APC had in 99%, the PDP 95%, ADC somewhere at 69%, and then 14% of polling units you had Accord party. This is based on the PVT sample, and that is a random sample of 250 polling units. So you can clearly see the presence of party agents. You know what, Sean? One of the things that I think we should look at when you think about security personnel. Yes, in 98% of polling units, there was presence of security personnel. So they were quite deployed across perhaps
they had every. When I was speaking with the CP in charge of the election yesterday, he wouldn't tell me how many police officers were deployed, but he said they covered all grounds. So I see if 98% of all police. So what happened to the 2%? What does that mean?
Well, as you can see, this was at 12 noon. At 12 noon. This afternoon. But again, this is the outlook. There was presence of security officials, and to be honest, in some of the polling units.
But jokingly, anyways, something our police officers are not this kitted.
No.
They are not as well kitted as this. But this guy here has got a gun around and got a comms. Our dream
police officers that you see them well kitted. I think
there's a few of them. Some of them also are
well-fed.
You see the welfare one, like the CP in charge of the election. He's one of the welfare. You see him well kitted, and he's got his clique of his units. They always come well kitted. Well, I mean, at the joking level, but the president needs to know, and the police IG is that these guys need to be kitted. They need to have cameras, body cameras. They need to have all of these gadgets that allows communication to be easier.
Absolutely, we do need to fund the police.
So you went to bring American police here?
This cannot be American.
It looks like American police.
No, not at all.
But anyways, the inconsistencies in the ballot and result sheets.
Yeah, I think this was one of the observations that we made this morning. When we went to the polling units, when you check the ballot papers, there were 19 parties. You check the result sheets, there were 15. And if you go to INEC's website, even as of today, the final list had 14 candidates. Yeah. Now, the issue here is when you have these inconsistencies, they can create confusion. We understand the rationale behind this because of court-ordered court-ordered inclusion of party candidates on the ballot, but this needs to stop. And I think it goes beyond INEC. It's about the courts. It's about our political parties, how they manage this process. And yes, maybe INEC was trying, to save the day so it doesn't have to print ballot papers last minute or issues around logistics. But this does not look.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
I know you're trying to make sense of what really happened. So let's assume that there's a court, whatever, and I could have updated their list. That is easily in their powers to do.
Absolutely.
So you have 14 on the INEC list. The result sheet says there are 15 political parties on the ballot papers. And imagine that these two guys are being printed almost around the same time. So you printed a ballot paper that reads 19 political parties, except INEC has printed these 2 months ago or 3 months ago or whatever. Where do you record the result for the 4 other political parties? I can go to court and challenge it because I participated. I'm not listed on the ballot. I'm listed on the ballot paper, but there's no way to put my result.
But to even make it worse, if you've got 14 candidates, what if as a voter you vote for one of the parties and at the end of the day, like you mentioned, the votes are not recorded? This is why these kinds of inconsistencies need to be addressed. And I say that it's about the courts, it's about politicians, it's also about INEC. Because if, for instance, and we've seen this actually happen, that on the eve of elections, you get a court order that says put this party on the ballot. What are you going to do? Are you going to print those ballot papers, for instance, in a governorship election overnight? Or you have to suspend the elections and then postpone it. And I think that where INEC got it wrong here was that it didn't communicate effectively to the public that these were, the issues for the public to understand. But I think that this is lessons learned. I think for subsequent elections, we need to ensure that this is
an unacceptable error from INEC. The confusion is too much. You have 3 different figures as to the political party participation, and you got everybody confused. I'm hoping that this will not degenerate further. So
I think these were just images. You can see the ballots, paper that was used today.
And this is the list as
published by INEC, and then these are the results sheets that were used. All these 3.
I'm imagining which of the political parties that are missing from this. I probably will study this later to find out which of the political parties.
Because you had SDP, there's AA. I think they're quite.
There's ZLP actually.
There's ZLP is there, YPP is there, SDP, PRP.
So I'm wondering which of the political parties.
They're quite. They're quite on ABGA.
Maybe it's APC.
So there's ABGA on the ballot.
Or ABGA.
There's ABGA on the ballot.
Oh, the ABGA is not here. ABGA is missing here. Is ABGA here? ABGA is not here too.
There's this interesting logo here, but I don't know which party.
The crab? The one with the mosquito or something?
No, I think the one that with the key or something. I don't know what party is this.
Looks like, no.
This is Youth Party. I think there's Youth Party.
And they were the ones who went to court.
Yes, and
they're not listed here.
These are things that, shouldn't repeat. Now,
violence. We've got a lot of questions to ask.
So there
are 24 of them.
Yeah, there were 24 reported incidents.
In 10 local government
areas. Now, this came from the Election Observation Hub that comprised the Kuka Center, the International Press Center, Nigerian Women Trust Fund, Yaga Africa. You have the Center for Media and Society, CIMESO, and then TAF Africa.
Yeah.
Based on the collective reports, there were about 24 reported incidents. And this is where the action took place. You know what is surprising? Is that
Moba.
Moba
was predicted to be a hot spot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Ikole didn't disappoint. No. It came true to his
it came true
to the prophecy. So I'm surprised that Emure was they were not included in hotspotting, but they're really spotting hot there. Ijero also was not there. But they were predicted too hard to be hotspot. But then, so this is what we have. We're hoping to get explanation, because there are also report late night yesterday. I was out trying to get the police to react to it. The report of arson and some incidents around in some part of the state, but we'll find out from the police.
So I think that's all, except you want to now go to the ERAD.
Absolutely. I think it's time for us to go to the ERAD now. So, okay. So, we've gotten to this point. But first and foremost, let's show our viewers what is going on with your darling IREV. Thank goodness that it is not, there are no glitches this time around.
No,
hopefully there are no glitches.
But
as we speak something, this is what we know. 2,445 polling units is what we're expecting results to come. And so far, 2,128.
And this is just 8 p.m. And this is about 5 hours
after the official close of polls.
And to a large extent, we'll say this is actually
87%.
87%
as of 8 p.m.
This actually
2,100. It is moved up to 2,128.
Yes, this beats
so now it's moved to 87% now.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
All right.
And I'll say that compared to recent elections, this seemed to be
and you can
one of the earliest that we've seen. So the IREV is performing, I would say, creditably well, and is functioning, is stable. The results for Ekiti, we are not focused on the results for the other by-elections in 6 other states, but our focus is on this. And we already have at least over 70% of these results on the
ERAD. For example, 111 out of 119. That's incredible. So it tells you that only about 8 of the result are yet to be in.
Absolutely.
And you look at also in Boeing, 105 out of 115. So just about 10 are yet to be turned in. Isiarun, 104 out of 114. That's 10 that is left out. And well, this is a lot. Ekiti East, only 43 out of 112 is a long way to go.
Long way.
There. Well,
some of the local governments, as you know, they have network challenges and issues. So we wait to see how far. But we already got over 70% of them on the ERAD.
Yes, that's where we're.
So thanks to the technology.
Absolutely. So a lot of people need to understand. So whatever that you are seeing here, and I'm going to continue to refresh so that you see the numbers as they are growing. Whatever you're seeing on the IREV, the data clocks that we showed you yesterday, they're walking right and they click the data center of ERAD, and they're putting the figures together. They're using different kind of technology, including any kind of technology that you can imagine without having to state the obvious. For those who are tech savvy, we know just about how some of these things are crunched. So we verify the result. It's not everything that goes into the IREV that we put on the ERAD. But basically, what we do is that whatever result goes on the IREV, is taken automatically to the ERAD platform, is verified by on the multiple layers by the clerks, ERAD clerks, and then here we go. So I'm saying ERAD.
I think we should refresh. Because that
a lot has changed in the last.
Gives us the current
absolutely
the current data.
So a lot is going on, which we will. So this is what we have. Don't forget, 2,445 out of 2,000, over 2,000 that's coming. We've processed and we have uploaded on the ERAD 1,681, which gives you about 68% of the entire that's coming. So pending is 764. That's about 31% of what you will get. But it's moving so fast. It takes give and take about 10-15 minutes on when to process what goes on the IREV and on the ERAD platform. So something. The ERAD processing rate is about 53% that we've had, and the upload by local government.
Yeah,
You can see
this is where we see, all the uploads. At least we've got 91% so far from Ileje, Ekiti West, Idiosi, Ikere, Oye, Emure seem to be doing very well. But when you look at some of the other LGAs, you still have this number. So I think it's quite impressive. And so I think 2.0 seem to be doing the magic.
Absolutely.
Because this is the first time.
The pace at which because a lot of people don't understand it. So that once you get the result in the RF, automatically, we have multiple layers of verification and breaking down before we get these on.
This is remarkable.
Absolutely.
And we must say this.
Congratulations.
We've never gotten to this point because one is either the IRF is unstable or there are issues with downloading. But the fact that we're able to download, and by the way, we've downloaded over 2,000 of those results. But like you said, all the due diligence processes need to be performed. That's why we're at 168. And I'm sure in the next hour or two, we're going to have all that on the portal.
Yeah. So part of what we also would like to show you is the fact at how we are processing and making sense of all of these for you. And you can see the political parties and how they're performing. So wherever you may be sitting, I'm going to be showing you in the course of the next few hours how the result and the performance by color code. Of course, the APC is color coded in red, the PDP in green, ADC in amber. But so in most of the local government areas, you will see that everything is turning red. As of now, the results are not totally in. But I'm interested in a few local government areas, like Ikole, for example, and I'm hoping how these, for example, so Irakwadun. So this is what the results are telling us. The registered voters, 3,751 of them. Accredited voters, 1,671. The total votes cast, 1,672. The leading party, as we have it, and the votes cast. This is what the IRAD will give to you
so far.
And
when you check, you clearly see that's the number of registered voters, the total number of PVCs collected in these local governments. This is where we are with the turnout, based on the data that has been processed. And just to be clear, it is based on the data that have been processed on the IRAD, and so far we had 1,673 results. Again, this is what it actually provides as of this moment, and I know subsequently as it gets updated, we will definitely bring this your way.
I'm interested. Ikole, this is what is happening in Ikole so far. This is what we know. But interesting analysis will be coming up in the next couple of minutes about the result that we have so far, what it means, the patterns, who is in the lead, and what exactly would be the reaction of the other political parties. We'll take a break, everyone. But when we return, we're not done just yet. All of this, we're making sense of it for you. Sometimes you don't have to wait for INEC to be reading the result all through the night. You already have a sense of what is meant. We're not announcing the result, by the way. We're just making sense of the result for you using technology. Here are 2.0. It's fast moving. And of course, before INEC results are in, you are in the front seat. We'll be bringing the CP in charge of security for this election, Abayami Shogule. He will be joining us and he will be answering questions to those incidents, those who are injured. What happened? Who are those arrested? The money, the buyers and the sellers of vote, how many of them have been arrested? What exactly went down in this election? We'll be right back, everyone. Join us again. Father, on Thanks so much, everyone, for staying with us right here on Channels Television. Our continued coverage of the Ekiti Governorship Election 2026. Let's now turn our attention to security. I'll take you back to Irad, but let me bring your mind back to the incident as was reported by a group of election observers who were monitoring, this election. And I'm being joined by the Commissioner of Police in charge of election security in Ekiti State, Dr. Abayomi Shogunle. It's a pleasure having you, CP. And I must say, congratulations. You boasted, you told me you're going to get it done. Lucky the job was well done. Or something. What do you make of the police performance?
No, quite frankly, congratulations. I think that there were in cases where we saw overzealousness of the security agencies that we've seen in previous elections. But also the police officers were quite professional with the way they managed this process. That's why you haven't heard, even from all the observer groups, that there were issues with security. And I think that they have been very, very cooperative, providing security. I sat in the data center today, and I was shocked to see that, they have deployed security officials to come protect the data center. And my sort of charge to the CP, I hope for subsequent elections we will enjoy this kind protection. Of collaboration and support.
Only
because we know we have a
kind of protection.
We have a difficult election coming in Osun. We know the dynamics are completely different. But I think give it to the police. They were quite professional with the way they managed this. But there are certain incidents that we need to actually do.
So we start with deployment. 98% of the polling unit had police officers at noon.
As a matter of fact, from our own data, this timing should even be like 9 a.m.
You have about 98%.
Yes, that's what we have. And that's one of the reasons why voting commenced at 8:30. I mean, accreditation and voting commenced at 8:30 because police were fully deployed. And how did we achieve this? Most of the police officers that were deployed today actually slept at the rack.
Okay. So easily you could move them?
Yes.
Yeah.
By
it takes
morning,
about 5 minutes or less to move from the rack center to the nearest polling unit. Usually, that's the design actually.
Yeah. Yes, so that's one of the reasons why police officers got to the polling unit very early this morning.
That's a big lesson for coming election, isn't it? And there are those who have advocated that go to China, you get it for cheap. There are little camp materials that you can get for these officers because a lot of the times they talk about welfare. And you see them sleeping on mats and sleeping in some deplorable situation. It's just a word of advice. I know it's out of your powers, and the money from INEC is not enough to get these police officers the kind of comfort that they will need. But I've seen those kind of jumper camp materials where you unfold them, and it gives you kind of a bed, a temporary bed, that can give you some kind of little comfort to sleep for 4 or 5 hours before the exercise starts. Well, that might be something to consider. If you go to China, it's a good place to get these things for cheap. Maybe you get about 25,000 or 30,000 for a kit of such.
Well, speaking about welfare, CP, I think there's a particular thing that happened today. There were cases of vote buying. Some of this vote buying happened in the presence of police officers. And in some cases, they didn't do anything about it. It looked like there was consensus amongst people part of the in those polling units to allow, the votes. In fact, in the clear view of both the police officers as well as the INEC official. And in fact, some of the observers thought that, come on, what's happening here? We thought that the police should have actually prevailed. And I think that's something that we observed in this particular election. I don't know if you received any such reports.
You see, this is the second time I've heard cases of vote buying. And as a matter of fact, I went to one of the polling units. When I recall that's the polling unit of one of the candidates. I think the Accord Party candidate also. It's widely reported by the media. You know, the first thing, I got a report from the officers on the scene, and the briefing I got indicated that there was nothing as such. But because I know things like this will come up, I went there myself, and I interviewed the candidates. What actually happened, he said, okay, that they saw some people, they were giving money, this and that and that. And, you know, I asked him just one question. Do you have a video clip or a picture?
Some kind of evidence.
Short. I'm a law enforcement officer. I'm not a sentimental enforcement officer. I enforce the law. And the law is very clear. He who accuses or alleges must assert. You know, now, the cases you have mentioned, do you have one picture or video? Because this is era of smartphone. Almost every phone has a camera.
But where we have evidence, which I probably will push
forward,
let me tell you what has happened. In full glare of everyone, people were being helped. You see another voter helping another voter to vote, which is in clear breach of even the entire system and the concept of our voting system, which is the open secret ballot system. One man, one vote. You cannot allow, and police officers were there looking, and they are not, and I can send you videos. We caught them live on TV, and they were doing.
Now we are moving into another.
No, I'm saying that in case that there were no evidence of that, I'm telling you of a scenario.
Just to buttress something. Yeah. Right at the polling, the last polling units that you observed, just at the AB center where you visited, there was a polling unit there. And you clearly see that when voters cast their votes, they leave the polling unit. And just right across after the gates, of the event center, that's where they go collect their money. In fact, the last one was, after they had concluded voting, there was someone there who was taking the account numbers of those who had come to cast their vote. And the police officers, were seated right there whilst this was happening. And there are several cases. And I think that we've got to have a conversation really about how do we hold people to account. Have there been any arrest in this particular election of people who...
Maybe we should ask the CP. Are there arrests for vote buying?
Or EFCC, or we don't know.
I will only talk for the Nigerian police force. And as at now, as we speak, there is no reported case of vote buying or arrest.
Brought to your knowledge?
No, that has been reported on our situation report platform. As the Commissioner of Police in charge of this election in Ekiti State, there is no one report yet.
But have you heard about a widespread vote buying incident?
Of course, but unsubstantiated. I told you about a particular polling unit I visited myself, and I had interaction with one of the candidates. And you see, most of these allegations of vote buying came as a result of arguments. This election, there is a lot of misunderstanding, arguments between supporters of different candidates, and one of the things the one party will try to bring up is this issue of vote buying. But shame between me and you, we know that it is very, very impossible for something to happen and somebody will not have a video or a picture.
But CP, I told you,
of vote buying.
CP, yesterday, I told you.
Then how do you prove that in court? How do you prove your case in court?
CP, I told you yesterday. Yeah, TP, I told you yesterday that this guy have gotten so sophisticated. In fact, once they, and there's a way, and that's what I was saying yesterday, I quite not been able to figure out how we're going to deal with it, but we've just got to find a way to deal with it. Those guys have gotten so sophisticated, they no longer give cash, because gone were the days where you apprehend them with cash. No, in some places, I mean, those are places where they give cash. Guess what? How do you then also arrest them when you didn't arrest them around the vicinity of the polling unit? So you see the sense, the sophistication.
I understand that part, but listen, for what I saw that happened today, now the police is an intelligence agency. It gathers intelligence. And if there is commitment, and we all agree that this is a menace that needs to stop, when your attention is drawn to the fact that, one, these voters, when they finish voting, there's a certain pattern that we see. They leave the polling unit and they go somewhere. My expectation and the expectation of every Nigerian is that the police will activate their powers to really go and check what is really transpiring. Or if someone is collecting account numbers of people at the polling unit, the question is, why are they collecting the account numbers of those at the polling units?
That's not the way the law works.
What about instances where they're collecting? But you can see
the issue is I mentioned about the sophistication that when people are collecting and collating account numbers, when they are not giving cash, when they ask you, they give you a tally and you go meet them 2-3 blocks away. These are modalities that they have taken to be able to get the vote bought or sold.
Well, moving forward, if there's any case of vote buying, bring it to the knowledge of the Nigerian police force. We will investigate.
But see, the point about evidence, and the truth is, there were people, and you talk about sophistication, it's also the resistance. It's not easy for people there's cases where you and I know that people were threatened for bringing up their phones to video such things. We've seen where people have been battered and they've been assaulted just because they bring out their phones. And so, for people who want to capture those kinds of moments, they have to be restrained. Again, you're also dealing in an era where there's a lot of regard for data privacy. You can't just remove your phone and start taking pictures.
No, somebody committing an offense has no data privacy. For somebody committing an offense.
CP, let me ask.
But just look, and those who are trying to capture it need to think about their safety.
CP, and I wanted to ask. I see that most of your officers were more gentlemen and gentle ladies of the police force. I think what they were waiting for is to settle the quarrel and make sure that there are no guns, no shooting, no violence. But they were onlookers where there are some clear breaches. For example, where people are aiding and helping others to vote, and they were there just looking at them, and nothing was done. I think that there's a need for more awareness, don't you think?
You see, regarding people being helped to vote, we know the level of literacy in this country, and some people would always need assistance, and that's why the INEC staff are there, and that's why the party agents are also there. Some people would always need assistance. As long as the person who is being helped is not complaining, and the party agents there that knows that this person needs, most of the person that needs assistance are aged people. Some of them cannot see clearly. Some of them cannot see clearly.
We understand for aged people and those who are living with some disabilities, but those who are clear young people who really do not need as much help, there are specified people, according to the guidelines, who can help. Not a co-voter helping another voter. It's totally not allowed. Maybe that understanding is not there, and that's why I'm bringing it to the notice. Where maybe Oshu is next. That when our police officers, kudos to the fact that your officers did a good job in calming the city and the state, but the fact remains that some of these things that are a big question mark on the process, your officer, and the law is now tried, that the fact that police can arrest at any point in time, you do not need to lay or lodge a complaint for election offenses. That has been established.
Arrest when you notice an offense being committed.
You know, there was a time,
sir,
CP, that police would tell you, we don't have the powers to do this, we don't have during election offenses commission. The law has been established that the police have the power to effect arrests, to prosecute on electoral offenses.
To effect arrests on an ongoing offense that is being committed.
And to also carry intelligence.
And for
because the police is not just prosecuting, it's also an intelligence agency, isn't it?
I think what I will try and put up something, probably yourself or Samson or both of you together. I think I will put up a day like open school for you to come and go with us so that you have an understanding of how policing. Otherwise, if we follow the approach you are saying, honestly, the way we will just be picking people.
We're talking specifically about electoral process.
Electoral offenses.
That's what I'm saying.
And usually election offenses are in public glare. Like a breach is a breach. There's nothing you want to do about it.
Most of the cases you are talking about, the elements that constitute that offense has not happened.
We've seen in this country where people literally carry ballot boxes and they run away.
One of the persons that tried that was arrested.
Today?
Today.
So let's go to those incidents. So there were 4 reported incidents as reported by the group of civil society organization. 24 reported incidents of violence across 10 LGAs. How much of knowledge of this do you have, sir?
The issue, the one I just mentioned, happened at
in Ekiti West.
One of Ekiti Southwest.
Okay.
The guy came to the polling booth. He picked up the ballot papers, the ballot box, and ran away. So the police gave him a very good chase, and he was discovered. The ballot was recovered from him.
Is he in your custody now?
Oh yes, okay. Since afternoon when he was arrested. And despite that, voting still continued in that places. Mm-hmm. In Nigeria, 4 different allegations came up. We checked, and we discovered that it never happened. So I don't know if
maybe it's counted into the 24.
Yes, if it counted into the 24. As we speak, just about 6 cases were reported.
6, not leading to arrest?
Only 1 arrest has been made. That's the one with the ballot box. Mm-hmm. The 6 cases are not all cases of snatching of materials. Mm-hmm. It has to do with alleged harassment, assault, and related cases like that. But only one is connected to electoral material.
So how many people do you have in custody based on electoral-related offenses?
Just that one.
Just one person?
Just that one.
So all the cases in Emure, Ikole, and Oye, Ilejemeji, and those...
We can actually furnish those reports from the election observation partners. With a specific polling unit where these things are.
All right.
I'd like to ask you, I don't know if you saw, it's a very popular social media person. Isaac Fayoshe is Ayo Fayoshe's younger brother, who went on social media earlier today, and he made some very strong allegations and claims to the effect that he said the PVCs that were collected were PVCs that were collected by a certain political party, and they used the political parties, gave it to non-indigenous or non-residents of Ekiti State for one purpose, to be able to make them vote by giving them money. And he posted a video. Are you able to? Were you able to see that video? Did you see?
Which of the? Is it the video that some people sat down?
Yeah. Somebody and someone was giving out PVCs.
Does that look like PVC to you? That video?
No, I'm asking.
No. I'm also asking.
I'm bringing it to your notice because it is now everywhere.
It's everywhere. We have seen it. What that person was handing out, does it look like PVC?
What does it look like?
Can you bend PVC like complimentary card? Can you bend PVC into 2 and still open it again? You know? Then again, when you listen clearly to the conversation underneath, it has nothing to do with voting. You know? So as I said yesterday, we need to verify everything that everybody is pushing out. Some people are pushing out some of these things because they just want to make money from the social media companies. We need to verify everything. For God's sake, how is it possible? Look at the verification mode. We also, the verification mode, your fingerprint, your facial recognition. Come on. How is it possible to just hand over a PVC to somebody who's...
So Isaac Faroche's claims were baseless as far as you're concerned.
Then where is his location? Where is his location? His elder brother voted in the same community. He didn't observe. People who are in that community did not observe what somebody who is on like 9,000 miles away is observing. Come on, let's talk about real issue. You know, we understand. People were not expecting this election to be peaceful. That's just the facts. They were not expecting that this election would be itch-free and will be concluded without any serious incident. Most people were not expecting it. And that is why we will see a lot of misinformation after this election. Because people never thought this would happen. In fact, I've heard on radio program of old women that called into the program saying that they are going to do Thanksgiving tomorrow in churches because they had a peaceful election in Ekiti State compared to the last election where two people were two homicide cases related to the election, and that even on election day, in most cases, people don't even go out to anywhere because of the fear, because of the different violent incidents that happen in the days leading to election and on actual election day.
Yeah. So can we maybe also confirm, you know, there was a reported incident yesterday about this altercation between the army and the police that led to a stray bullet.
What can you tell us about that, CP?
Did that really happen?
Yes, what happened on that, before going into that, I just want to, you know, I told you somebody was arrested. It was at Aramoko, Ward 3, Orisumbari, and this is the picture of the guy with the ballot papers. This is the picture of the guy with the ballot papers. Okay. You know, so that's the only arrest.
Arrest that has been made. One arrest so far known up until this moment related to the election. But there were other violence or criminal or crimes that were committed in the state within this period.
That's related to
non-electoral offense or violence related to the election.
Of course, in any community, in any society, there will always be crime.
So what I'm saying is that maybe these 24 incidents were non-election related.
When we see the details, we will get them. Then another thing I'm suspecting is that, you know, multiple organizations are reporting these cases. We're most likely going to see one or two cases being reported by 3 different platforms. But by the time we see the details of each case, we will know that, okay, this case is the same case that 4 different platforms are talking about.
But this is actually aggregated. So it's aggregated by the several organizations. So they are all distinct cases. So we will furnish you.
CP, tell us about the post-election security plan, because a lot of the times there is a pre-election, the election phase, and the post-election. A lot of the times you see an election that was peaceful, but few hours or days later, there would be violence and reaction based on the outcome of the election. What are your plans? Have you strategized for the post-election era?
Okay, I think we skipped one question regarding the arson, right?
The arson from yesterday.
Yes, just to confirm.
Yes, just to confirm that, you know, that case has nothing to do with
the election.
what happened in it was in Oye. I'm trying to pull up, and if you can help me with the name of the town. That's Ekiti. Yeah. You know, there was actually a football match in the community, and during the football match, differences came up between two different groups during the football match that led to skirmishes between two different groups. Of course, the police responded, and in the course of police responding to that incident, there was a gunshot which the victim gave up the ghost, and that caused a kind of tension in the community, which resulted into burning down, not even burning down, partial burns on the police station building. You know, and immediately that incident happened when it was reported, containment and de-escalation measures were immediately put in place, because we don't want it to affect voting for today, even though it has nothing to do with the election. And thankfully, the efforts worked, and voting was conducted in that community today. In fact, I visited 3 of the polling units, one just around that area, adjacent to the police station, one before the police station, another one after the police station. Voting actually took place. So that incident of yesterday is not politically related or related to the elections. Now, moving to the issue of post-election, post-voting security arrangement. You know, now we are now at the collation stage, where most of the. Then let me quickly say regarding the results that are yet to be announced. I can confirm to you that all results have arrived at the INEC designated area.
From all of the 16 local governments.
From all of the polling units. They are going to the local government now. Yeah. The local government collation center. So what I'm trying to say is that there is no voting ballot papers that are outside of designated collation center as we speak.
They are now in the LGAs for LGA location, collation.
Where they will be collated. So there is no fear about those ones.
Okay.
Are they gradually we're going to see them. Okay. I'm not speaking for INEC, but I'm speaking
based on
my role. We have helped them to gather all the ballot papers to where they are supposed to be collated.
In the 16 local government areas.
Yes, so none of them is safely is missing. They are safe. Okay, so now we are now focusing now on collation of results, and we have more than enough armed guard. For unlike the polling units where we didn't deploy armed police officers, collation centers now we have deployed adequate police officers, because this is one of the most important periods. If anything happens to those results, then that means all the running about that we have been doing in the morning comes to nothing. So the results are well protected, and collations are ongoing at the different locations. And with the way things are going, we are going to have results from the total result from some local governments coming in before 12 midnight with the way the collations are going.
Thank you, Dr. Shogunle. I really want to thank you for coming. You said yesterday you were very proud of what planning that you have put in place. But you even sound more boastful now that at the end of the day about what you've done. And I want to say congratulations to you and your team. No life is lost as far as we know. I'm hoping that nothing violent will happen going forward, at least to secure the lives and property. Where things go wrong, we say it. But when you do good, also when you do your job, we also want to applaud you. Thank you so much indeed for your job. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. If I may just quickly add that the election security management framework that we have now is the same thing we're taking to Osun, and God willingly we are expanding it, you know. So we have also made, if you look at that will be conversation for another day. If you look at the deployment today, you will see that in most cases we have only police officers.
Yes.
So I don't want to tell you what we are trying to use that to test again.
Okay.
So when we get there, we'll also talk of
Dr.
that.
Abami, he's not just a police officer, he's an academic also. But thank you so much indeed, and I wish you and your team the very best. We take a break, everyone. But when we return, more on what we can tell you on the ERAD. The results are now more, and we see whether or not any of the area on the map is any other color other than what it was earlier on. You find out after this break, everyone. Thanks so much, everyone, for staying with us on our continued coverage of the Ekiti governorship election 2026, and we're getting right into the ERAD platform for you to have a sense of what has coming so far. It does look that the ERAD platform is moving so fast and it's caught up with what we have in the IREF. But I'm being joined by two ERAD analysts at this segment of the program. I'm joined by Mr. Ezrom Ajaya and Dr. Mike Omilisi. Both of them are ERAD analysts. Thanks so much, gentlemen, for coming tonight on the program.
Thank you very much.
You guys don't look tired. I saw you that you've been going around the city. And how has it been so far, Mr. Ezrom?
I think with the observations we've had, it's been good to see that the conduct of the elections have been peaceful. Like was mentioned earlier, it's good to see that the logistics issues that many had feared with INEC or had become a recurring issue were significantly addressed in this election. It's also good to see that it's also good to see that people actually came out. I think we will talk about that when we go to the specifics of what the trends are showing. But I think, like was emphasized before, where we have seen a significant reduction in violence, what we've seen is an increase in this issue of voter inducement and voter trading, to the extent that it seems it has become a norm with our elections. But I think that has been the general observation.
Dr. Milisi, what are your thoughts?
Yeah,
the general view of the election.
My movement was limited generally to Ado Ekiti.
Hope you are not on house arrest.
No, not really. Like many of the commentators have said, with the number of people who I saw on the feed, I could see the enthusiasm. Many of them who show up early in the morning, and some of them, and the prompt arrival of the INEC officials, that was very commendable, particularly in most of the polling units that I visited. And wasn't unlike in the past, where prospective voters will be waiting for INEC officials 2-3 hours. But in this case, I didn't witness any of such. And I could see the heavy presence of security agents in many of the polling units. And of course, party agents too. I had thought that maybe, though we can't be talking about 2 horse, a 3 horse race or 3 horse race, but mostly we have party representatives representing 2 or 3 parties in many of the polling units. Others, nobody could establish their presence. So generally speaking, it was a relatively peaceful election in Ado Ekiti where I visited.
All right, thank you so much. Let's go here. But you know, the funny thing about what has happened is the intertwining nature of the IREF and the ERAD. So let's look at what is going on. In the last 1 hour, I would like to allow INEC to know that Nigerians are watching, and huge expectations are on the IRF because of issues of transparency and the responsibility on INEC to be able to deliver fairness and transparency in the process. In the last 1 hour or so, we've seen some kind of pause in uploading of results on the IRF. This is the INEC IRF, the viewing portal. And if you look at the result as they come across all of the 16 local government area, if you refresh, if you find out that in the last 1 hour, it still remains 2,128 out of the 2,445 results. So it tells us that there are 87%. We're still expecting about 22% of the results to come in. It shows one thing, that something definitely is going wrong. It went so fast in the last 3-4 hours. Nothing happened in the last 2-3 hours after the election stopped. But in the last next 3-4-5 hours, things went up. But in the last 1 hour, definitely something has happened. We're hoping that is not a glitch. So we go to the ERAD, and if you refresh the ERAD platform, you see that all what you have in the IREF have now been processed, verified, and uploaded onto the ERAD. It means that ERAD is up to date. ERAD is 100% as updated as you have the IRF. So, of course, what the ERAD does is that it gives you an understanding of what you need to know as far as this is concerned. Sorry, Sorry. Sometimes this has a mind of its own. All right, let's take a quick break. When we return, we'll be able to give you more on this. Thanks so much, everyone, for staying with us. Apologies for the time out there. So let's get back to, I was telling you about how updated the ERAD is. And you can see total PUs expected. This is the total number of PUs across the 177 wards in 16 LGAs. And the result that we have there so far is what we have in the INEC IREF. Pending download, 317 makes up about 13% not yet downloaded from the IREF portal, and download progress as we see it. In fact, it's faster than this is showing us, but the ERAD processing rate is about 67%. It tells you that in an hour or less, we are able to process as many results as possible. And I like to also tell our viewers that the process of getting the result from IREF is such that there are layers of verification, because not all the result that comes into the IREF are fit for purpose. So we get it into verification, different layers of verification before it comes to the IREF. But there's a huge improvement from ERAD 2.1 and ERAD 2.0.
Yeah.
Right. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think
I'm talking about the improvement that we've seen in terms of the speed. It wasn't as fast, but now we've got it as fast. It's meeting up. In fact, we're expecting IRF to go faster. But we've caught up with it.
No, I think it's very good that and kudos to Yaga for developing this or preparing this and making it available so that we can have this conversation to just as an accountability tool, to also see and compare between what we have on the IREF and then to just make analysis on that. I think if you look at the upload completion rates, it's also able to tell us where they are pending issues. So it gives us insight into where there is a lag. We can see for a majority of the local government areas, we are at 98, 94, 4%. And so if we scroll down a bit, we'll be able to see where that lag is and ask questions around or just explore what
there's a whole lot of there is a lot of lag there. These are the areas where we are finding some problems in having the results come into the IREF. So, but we've seen quite a number of that come into from Ekiti Southwest, which has got the highest number of results, 184 sheets that have been processed so far. Idosi, 135 sheets, F4, 111 sheets. But you'll be wondering what exactly could be the problem in Irregular Infaloading. Is it network or Ekiti? Is it network problem or some other kind of glitch that we're not aware of?
Exactly.
Dr. Millicent.
Yeah, we may not be able to discover.
You're familiar with the terrain. Is it that the maps are not working, the networks are bad, or what exactly could be wrong? But this is giving us a real-time fact check on the situation that we have on ground. Which of the local government is lagging in terms of the upload of the result? But we just heard from the CP, all the results physically have now gone to the local government areas for physical collation. But for the IREF, for Nigerians to be able to see, we're having issues there. About 22% of the results are not yet in.
I think it's helpful to then ask significant questions of INEC. Why the delay? Because the expectation was that at the polling units, these results would have been uploaded on the beavers and those processes. So I think it raises the opportunity for us to then get clear communications from INEC to say why the delay when for majority of the other local governments upload is at a very high and acceptable rate.
Good. Let me take you to what can get us talking. I know a lot of people are already looking forward to it, but in terms of a lot of the analysis of the paradigms in the election, gender, occupation, age, and all of that, this is what we have. And you can see that in the election generally for 2026, that is, this is the number of registered voters and all of the statistics for this election. But it tells you something, that we have more female or more women for this election who are registered voters than men in Ekiti State. And you can see where how that pans out in each of the female voters, male voters by local government areas. In, for example, Ekiti, it shows you that you have more women than men in Efon. They are almost neck and neck here. In Ekiti East, we have similar situation here. But in most of the local government areas, there are more, the situation is like women are more than men in most of the local government areas. So Ekiti State, it does look like we have more active women, politically speaking.
In fact, I thought we will have more than this, because during the registration period, I actually observed it, and I saw more of women waiting to get registered than men. So I had even thought maybe we have more than this, than 51.
And if you look at it, the age profile analysis in the state by distribution, and similar thing, of course, Ekiti, we know just how gigantic in terms of voting population it is compared to all of these, dwarfing all of them in terms of the number of voters that we have. But yesterday we are now analyzing this, and we know that there are more young people, especially students, who are registered voters in Ekiti State. And you can see the numbers are very glaring. Youth from 18 to 35, 29%, middle age, 36 to 37%. You put these figures together, it tells you that almost 60% of the entire voting population are young people. Right.
Yes. I think during the registration through, maybe the first-time voters now, perhaps those who are less than 18 4 years ago and who were able to register now. And because I think the total registered number of voters in 2022, 988, and we have 1,050,000 plus now. Maybe averagely like 80,000 added new voters. So many of them are younger persons.
What Dr. Milisi, what perhaps will also intrigue you or interesting is the number of what I said earlier, students here. And the fact also remains that one statistics that is very unique is traders, businessmen, and women, artisans also top the number of the category of in terms of occupation of the voters. And in terms of PUWD registration, you see what has happened. So we have other people, we have people living with albinism second to others on the list of PWD people. And this is a breakdown of how things are. Well, let me take you to where a lot of Nigerians will probably be looking forward to. And this is the point where the result as it stands right now that we need to look at. All right, so this is what we know right now. For example, let me go to Ikole, which is a very major election point, or Ado-Ekiti. Let me get to Ado-Ekiti. And in Ado-Ekiti, of course, you know, this is what the figures are telling you. Registered voters, 189,000. Total PVC collected compared to this is 183,000. But see what has happened today. 29,000 out of this figure are accredited voters. Total vote cast 28,000. Another 1,000 has been lost in that process. Valid poll 27,000. Even worse, from 29,000 accredited, only 27,000 of that, you've lost almost 3,000 votes from the accredited voters, now giving you the entire valid vote. But so far, this is what we have so far, and the turnout is telling us 15%. So in Ado-Ekiti, that is what the figures are telling us.
And the turnout
so far, based on the results that have come in
now, is very low in Ado-Ekiti, because, and we discovered that this is a convergence of many people from different local governments who are civil servants who reside in Ado-Ekiti. Many of them have transferred the voting unit to Ado-Ekiti, and it is expected that maybe perhaps they will come out to vote, and many of them top civil servants with many dependent relatives who are of voting age, that we're expecting them to come out in Ado-Ekiti particularly. So it's for so far that we have 50%, that it's very, very low.
What will probably interest you, Mr. Ezra, is the fact that you look at the political map.
Yes.
Right? And if you look at the coloration and the color code, it tells you APC in red, PDP in green, ADC in amber. As far as what the figures tells us, this is what is looking at. We cannot announce the result. We don't have the powers to do that, and we cannot project, because that's not what this is all about. But this gives you an understanding. The old 16 local government era, based on the result that we have so far, is red.
Yes, that's the trend. That the figures we have, or the data that we have, suggests. I think that even when you look at the pre-assessment statements or the pre-assessment reports that were highlighted, we had the trend was suggesting that it was a non-competitive race, for various reasons. That the opposition looked fractured already, and so there wasn't any formidable opposition to the incumbent government. And I think, as you see it now, that trend or the data is showing us that we are marching towards that. But I think significantly, if you go back, if you, like you were highlighting, you look at registered voters. As you go up to the data, you look at registered voters.
This is Ado-Ekiti, for example.
Yes, and you look at accredited voters, you can see the huge gap between accredited voters and then the actual voting. And you can see that in terms of turnout, we have something
so far. These are the numbers so far. The results that have been. It will be more than that.
It could be more than that. We are seeing a significant reduction in terms of turnout. And for us, I think it should raise questions for our political leaders to say, are people voting by not turning out?
And look at that, and you are very right. 189,000, not far from the 183,000. So it tells you just about 6,000 people did not collect their PVC in the registered voters. I always tell people, focus on the PVCs collected, because these are the actual potentials of people that will turn out.
Yeah.
But so far, and I don't see any significant difference because the number of results that are yet to come in,
it's very,
and imagine that in Adwek, maybe another 5,000 here, and it tells you that this is maybe 1/4 of a quarter of the entire voting possibility, total PVCs collected. This is terribly, terribly low, isn't it?
Very, very low. And we can ascribe, what we can ascribe to that is that maybe in the past, elections in Ekiti were characterized by intense competition, really. But weeks and months preceding this election, we witnessed what actually happened. And like he said, fractured opposition parties and a sort of elite consensus for the first time in Ekiti regarding who they wanted to support. And I think this actually showed. If there it has been a kind of intense competition, various political parties will have mobilized across all communities, but we couldn't see much of them, their presence in the field, in mobilizing people.
I mean, if you go and look at it, I intentionally brought out Ekiti, but there's just so much to, in the coming days, we'll be able to analyze more. Dr. Milisi, I must thank you, Mr. Ezra Aganya. Thanks so much. Both of them are ERAD analysts. Thank you so much indeed. We've got more, and I've got more ERAD analysts, and I've got to speak with INEC Rec, still on the program, about the conduct of this exercise, some of the issues that came up in the process of the election. We'll be right back after the break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us right here on this special edition of the program focusing on the Ekiti governorship election. The election has been conducted and the results are now being expected. But let's get to know how these all conduct went and the explanation that we could get from INEC. I'm being joined by the resident electoral commissioner for INEC for this election. Doc, thank you so much for your time. I know it's a very difficult period for you since we are expecting the result. But given the outcome of what we saw today, From the point of view of your preparation and INEC's point of view, how would you assess the exercise today?
We strategically decided that we have to start because delay in starting the electoral process, election, could have led to so many things. And we make sure that we set up all our polling units at least 8 o'clock in the morning, and people we are waiting for the voters, and the voters were not waiting for us. And on the issue of security, we have had a lot of security meetings with the members of ISES, the police, the DSS, the Immigration, National Orientation Agency, DMI. All those people have contributed a lot in letting us have a very successful election. I went around myself and I saw what's going on, and I'm so happy about the voters' turnout.
Rick, well done. One of the things that we applauded INEC for earlier is logistics and how you are being able to maneuver to the point that you had at about 10:30 noon, you have near 90% or more of setting up of the polling unit. What exactly did you do right? What was it that you corrected? What lesson did you lean on to achieve this? Because in the history of INEC, logistics has always been a problem. But if you are able to surmount it in this election, you must have done something unique.
When you need transport, is one of the major things you need for the delivery of the materials. And we have been able to have discussion with the transport union, and we plan our transportation matrix, knowing the number of vehicles we need. And in the process, we had a series of meetings with them. After meeting with them, we'll be able to tabulate what kind of vehicles we need, and we pass them on to them so that they can give us all the list of vehicles that they will provide local government by local government. And after that, they have to put the name of the drivers and the phone numbers of the driver. And we pass that one on to the Federal Road Safety, and who are in the local government to examine the vehicles and make sure they are in proper shape. And also, we pass on the document to the DSS and the police. And with that, we have been able, and with cooperation of the union themselves, we spoke with them, and we really let them know that they must buy into this democratic dispensation. They should not look at issue of money alone, but they should look at it that they are delivering service to their motherland. And with that cooperation, we are able to overcome most of the logistics problem.
That's interesting. If that was the way you are able to resolve some of the challenges which has become age-long, as almost as old as INEC itself, then kudos. But tell us about what this confusion is all about. There's a different number of political parties on the ballot, 19 on the ballot. You had 15 on the election results sheet, and you released 14 on the notice of election of candidates. Why the confusion?
This are the judiciary. Initially, when we unveiled the candidates in early this year, there were 12 candidates. And eventually, another party went to court, and we were asked to include it into the process. Then, also about 3 weeks ago, we were asked to include another political party. And up to 2 weeks ago, then in the process, because, there must be timeline for preparation of this election, INEC has the timeline. You have the time you have to prepare all these ballot papers and so on and so forth. Then we decided that instead of, whenever they ask us to add another political party, we are going to waste a lot of money because the one that has been done will be discarded. And we have seen it being done severally. Then the INEC decided that there is need. Let's put all the political parties on the ballot paper. So because people are not voting for candidates in their names, they are voting for political parties. So any political parties, maybe the court said we should include or do that, they are already on the paper because they are registered political parties. So we decided to strategize like that in order to save money and to save the little resources that INEC has. Anytime they ask us to change the name of, to include the name of another party on the ballot paper, INEC we have to waste lots of money to reprint another ballot paper. So in the process, and the INEC was guided by policy that there is need to have all the names of the political parties. In case by next week or the date of the election, they ask us to add, so the name of the political party is there already. So that's the reason you are having that.
So what happens to the political party that you will not be able to record their names on the result sheet because you have lesser name on the result sheet, lesser political parties?
The candidates, the people, the voters know the political parties they want to vote for. And they know the political parties that are contesting. One thing that we should know and give to Nigerians is that most of our people are intelligent people. So they know the parties they want to vote for.
But Rick, this is what I'm talking about. You have 19 political parties on the ballot. And you have a result sheet that has 15 political parties. That means there are 4 political parties that are not represented on the result sheet. So how would a vote, where will you put the results of the political parties, the 4 of them, where would you put them? Because the result sheet is omitting 4 political parties.
Printing of the the printing of ballot paper is more expensive and it costs more time than printing of the result sheet. So we know that we have 15 political parties on the register. That is why we have that register. But without thinking, if they ask us to add another one, it's easier to print result sheet than to print ballot paper.
So you are I'm hoping that you are expecting the worst scenario because politicians never leave all of these things alone. Give us an understanding what happened with the performance of beavers. There are elderly people and those who are mid-age also who were complaining, and the beavers rejected their facial recognition feature. What really went wrong with beavers today? Beavers seems to have
and one time, anytime, we can have technical issue. And that is why we have what we call RA Tech. In all those residential, all those RAP centers, we have technicians that are computer repairers and that have been versed on management of beavers. And immediately we have this kind of challenge, they will get in touch with the RAP techs, and the RAP techs, most of them are on bikes within that community, and they will go there and rectify it. We saw some sample, and most of them were rectified.
So the problem is that there are a lot of Nigerians who think that, and they got really upset, and I'm very sure that you heard the PDP candidate who really got upset and thought that people are being disenfranchised. Has INEC learned anything? Is it the sensitivity of the technology? Are you able to improve on it in the next election? Or what exactly are you doing? What lesson have you learned?
Concerning this election,
what is malfunctioning?
One thing is that there is need to be prepared because it's a machine, and you can never say anything that is mechanical. You can have fault at any time. You can buy a new car and you can develop fault any time. You can buy a new phone, you can. But what is most important thing is how you react to the challenges. You either lament, but or you face the challenges. And the challenge is that is why we strategize enough to have people at we call RATEX at every registration area that moves around the polling use to discover and make sure whenever they have challenge with the technology, they are properly fixed. So that's what we have been doing.
So, Rick, how many results do we have in your office right now at the headquarters of INEC that are ready for announcement?
Collation, where I am now, because I'm in an office and you have been keeping waiting here for the past 30 minutes. Because, yes.
Apologies for that.
So you are taking my time. I'm supposed to be looking, because I can't tell you how many, because where I am now, inside the room where I'm doing the interview, I don't know what's going on now. But we are expecting the result, and we start the collation process by 10 o'clock on the dot.
By 10 o'clock on the dot, so we'll be expecting that to happen. Apologies for keeping you. But Rec, if you can quickly tell us, IREV, there is some pause on the uploading on IREV. What do you think is the problem? In the last 1 hour or so, we've not seen a fresh upload on IREV. What is happening?
Ekiti, we have areas where the networks, it's difficult to have the networks. Like even in the Kere, people have to move out before you can get network. Not to talk about all those areas. You know, Ekiti is a very mountainous area. And all these kind of things have interface with the network connection. And one thing I'm sure I'm going to tell you is that you will get all the results. Because the moment they move from those areas, the thing will be uploaded. When you have WhatsApp, when you send WhatsApp message sometimes, when you send it, you might not get the result until you move away from where you are. So that is the same thing, and that's the same mechanism that these beavers use. We are using the same technology.
Thank you so much, Rec. Apologies to have kept you and holding you back, but thank you so much, and I wish you the very best as Nigerians are waiting to hear the result. That's the resident electoral commissioner for INEC for Ekiti State.
Very good result, and we have had a peaceful day in Ekiti State, because Ekiti State is a state of peace. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let me now bring in some fresh faces, fresh legs onto the pitch of play for the ERAD analysis. Being joined by Mr. Ezenwa Nwago, who is an ERAD analyst, and Mr. Larry Arokundade, who is also an ERAD analyst. Both of them elder statesmen in their own right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. And it's good to see you looking fresh. You were all looking battered earlier because you've been through the sun, and now you're looking refreshed.
Why didn't you say veteran ERAD analyst?
Let me say that to you, Larry. It's good to see you, veteran ERAD analyst. And of course, I said you guys are elder statesmen in your own right. You've paid your dues.
No, maybe he meant seasoned ERAD analyst.
That's interesting. Yeah. Gentlemen. Fantastic scenario that we're seeing with ERAD this time around. A lot of good news. The problem now is IREV. And let me see whether or not there is any new development as far as it's concerned. No, there isn't. 2,212. That's what we have over 2,445 that we've seen. But this is what we have, and it's giving you, ERAD gives you the opportunity to be able to see the result and the breakdown of the result as they coming. So this is the map. Ekiti was what we were talking about earlier on. But let me begin with Mr. Nwago. What were your expectations, and what are your views generally about the potentials, especially for those who are sitting at home and who are thinking the INEC rec is saying 10 o'clock when Nigerians are already having a feel of what the result could be?
Well, I think ERAD's made history. For the first time in Nigeria, you are having results posted by INEC matching what ERAD 2.1 wasn't this way.
Yeah.
Sometimes we lag behind, but this time around we're at par with the results that have been posted with. And I think it's kudos to, Yaga and the channels team in terms of how we've been able to push this forward beyond where it was before. Now we bring in, like you would normally say, we bring in Nigerians to the front seat of election results management.
Yeah.
We can't announce results. We are not qualified to do so. But what INEC has put out is being analyzed, is being verified, and then being checked by
Mr. Arogunade, you've seen the pre-independence Nigeria. You've seen the first, second, third, fourth republic.
I didn't see pre-independence.
But I mean,
I came around after independence.
I just see your these legs I've seen. almost all the four republics since post-independence. But give us an understanding of what this makes you feel.
Second and third republic. Well, as you said, we need to commend Yaga and Channels Television for this kind of effort, because it's all about the transparency of the process, facts and figures that people can believe in based on what they are seeing. A lot of people will not have access to the internet. A lot of people will not have to go online. But with what Channels is doing, this is like a live reporting, live update of the results as they come in. And it's very, very important. And the point you were making when you were talking with the resident commissioner about the fact that you had 19 political parties, on the ballot, but for the results sheet you have only 15. Actually, some of these parties don't even have, candidates. We are confronted with a situation where the results for these parties, are being displayed. But the good thing is that people would understand that, these are the candidates that we have. We would have liked a situation where there is no pause, that, IRF keeps updating, because this is also the kind of things that lead to speculation. Sometimes, rumor, why is it that it's not coming up at this point in time? Is something happening there? But again, it's about technology. It's about the need for INEC to give regular updates. One of the things we talked about before this election is that INEC needs to master the strategy of what we call, crisis communication. Crisis communication is not about the fact that there is crisis, but it's about assuring the people that nothing has gone wrong. So it will be good, as you've spoken with the resident electoral commissioner, for him to follow up and say, talk to the ICT unit and come out with, it could be just one short statement, one paragraph or two to say, this is the reason why there's a pause, the process is ongoing, the remaining results will soon be uploaded, and then people can be rest assured.
And Larry is very, you remember, what really was the major problem in 2023, where a lot of Nigerians were distrusting the process, is because of the delay in communication of the problem INEC had. And a lot of partners were saying, if you had told us what your problem, we would have helped you to communicate it to the Nigerian people. But when they said there was a glitch, they didn't even come out to say there was a glitch. It was later on, months later, they said there was a glitch. But Nigerians were thrown in the dark. You agree with Larry about coming clean about what exactly? Because the more the delay, the more the suspicion.
Proactive communication is important. But as important as that is, we also must realize that we can't be better than our infrastructure. Exactly. In the back end of this, there are young people who are battling with these uploads. And I do know for sure that up to before I came here, many of them were still in the local government areas where they are working, trying to upload and fix this. And some of them are also at the backwater, society. So sometimes those of us, especially somebody like you, that sometimes you are in America or sometimes in America, you always think that things will have to work in that very quick.
So, but there's an ideal one.
Yes, but
there's an ideal one. There's a real one.
Yes. So
but the idea is that for you to be able to have a middle ground, especially with the expectation of the average person, you've got to come up. You have said that proactive communication is very key. But where I'm going to take you to, Ezenwa, you were here 4 years ago, you were here 8 years ago, you were here 12 years ago in this state covering this election. But look at what political parties that we have that are dominant today for this election: APC, PDP, ADC, and probably some NNPP and SDP. As far as the results that are dropping in the IRF is concerned, these are the dominant ones. But guess what? Let me take you to 2022, and you will see what probably has changed. So you see, in 2022, you have APC, you have SDP, PDP, right? In 2022, and the performance was really around these major political parties. Of course, the party that won the election in 2022. Fast forward to today, 2026, and let's take a look at what is happening. What were your expectations about the competitiveness of this election, Ezenwa?
Well,
considering how this map, the color that is turning.
Well, for me, I personally was thinking that we're unfair in engaging the competitiveness of the election, knowing that you have about 13 thereabout political parties that were, jostling for the gubernatorial position. But apparently, what you see in Ekiti is some sort of elite consensus. The people that will have made it, competitive, have somewhat, like Ezra said in your first session, had given some concession that they want to go in a particular direction, and so what is remaining of the opposition indeed fractured and in his own word, and I did enjoy the use of that word, fractured opposition. But clearly speaking, I think that the political parties will have to be very clear whether they want to just be pretenders or clearly contenders.
So let me show you. I was showing earlier some of the analysts, Ekiti, which is by far the local government with the highest voting population in the state. And you look at it, for example, registered voters 115,000, accredited voters is 29,000, Ezewa and Malari. If you look at, for example, Ikole is another one with huge population of voters, 44,000 registered, accredited 15,000. As far as the result of coming is concerned, if you look at Ikere, this is another one, 62,000 of registered voters, accredited is 20,000. Don't forget we have 97% of PVC collection. Let me show you here another local government area. Let's look at Oye. Oye has 64,000 also, because there are about 6 local government areas that are in the 60,000 margin of registered voters. But look at it, they only have about 20,000. A third of that number are accredited for election. Larry, what do you think this means?
Well, I think it probably reflects a number of dynamics. The first is what Eze talked about, that it will seem as if at the level of the elite, there is a certain consensus, political elite in the state, that this is the way they want to go. Now, that has a multiplier effect on the people, the perception that perhaps even if we go out to vote, it may not likely alter what is perceived as the existing status quo. So to that extent, you have that, and it also raises the question of the broader issues of while citizens, despite registering, we saw a very high level of registration and collection of PVCs, still would not want to go out. Perhaps they collect those PVCs because they need it as a form of identity for some other things, but some other things also emerged when some of our partners went around trying to do voter education and voter mobilization. People openly talked about their perception that they've not really had what you could call dividends of democracy, and they needed to be convinced as to why they should go out to vote, when it would seem that the kind of dividends, their expectation in terms of their economic situation and so on, are not being met. So it poses a challenge, and that is that we cannot address the question of low turnout, or which we sometimes call voter apathy, in vacuum. It has to be situated in the context of democracy itself, what democracy is supposed to mean for the people, what our elected leaders need to do, which means they need to understand that it is not just the running around few days to the elections, maybe some form of inducement that will make people come out, but the fact that people have to be convinced that yes, democracy is making a real difference in their lives.
My major concern is when I saw 97%, and I thought that I was too happy, it was too early to call yesterday. I was excited when I saw 97% of PVC collection, and I was saying that maybe this is a good news of changing the turnout of voters.
It's a good news in a sense. Perhaps we should also look at the fact that this is just a single election. Perhaps things could change towards 2027.
But again, it's isolated also.
Why do we talk about only entry and we don't talk about exit?
Exactly.
So this register is always about entry. Static. It's always about adding more people. Okay, 900.
What about those who are not?
What about those who have in Nigerian parlance, jackpot? What about those who have passed on? What about those who... So all of those are not brought into the conversation around the voter register conversation. Okay? But like Comrade Landry alluded to, what will be the reason why people will collect their PVCs and not want to vote? First, there is the community, collusion in voter registration, where you deliberately up your voter register through collusion with registrants to make sure that you have higher votes, because you are lied to that the number, your voting strength has something to do with the amenities that come to your community.
Look at the other dynamics, from what you have said. There are those who said, yes, the PVCs were collected, but possibly not by the owners of the PVCs.
Yes, it happened. It happened in Ekiti. There are reports of that happening. There is somebody who had to chase, and that is a violation of the law, because you don't distribute PVCs, you collect them. You understand? Meaning that the person, the intended voter, must have to be the one coming to collect.
And where the suspicion will come is a segment of the registered voters that have collected most. The students they have more of the PVC collection rate. And you look at, I mentioned to you, you look at Oye, for example, 64,000. But you call it the same thing. The pattern is the same thing. But in the generality, because I want us to close up this segment now, in the generality of it is that, did you expect that all of the local governments were going to be painted in this color? Ezra, let me begin with you. Final thought.
No, there was no way I could have expected. I thought that there would be some shift. I'm surprised that shift didn't happen. But I think that it is a call.
Look at the margins.
Yes.
14,395.
Yes.
Look at the margins, 17,000 and 2,000. If you go to Ijero, 12,904 so far. The margin is so wide, it does look like other political parties are non-existent. Larry?
Well, I think it's looking like a rolling stone now, and the map may not really change, because what are the factors that would determine the winner? Having the majority of the total votes cast, and then also having majority in 2/3 of the local governments. We're talking of 16 local governments. How many local governments do we have now? So it's getting close to the color that we're seeing here. But then we still have to wait, and we're not expecting any kind of magic, even though we're in the age of African magic. But I don't see that magic. But this is about facts, this is about figures. It's not likely to.
Nigerians, respect these two gentlemen. Between them are several years and knowledge and wisdom of election and democratic process. Isn't Wawagu, Larry Arugunade. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time, both of them.
Thank you very much.
Veteran. Thank you so much indeed. Well, on this segment of the program, we close it up, but don't forget that we still keep our eyes on the process. We're not done yet. INEC says 10 p.m. Channel Television News at 10. Also at 10 p.m. We'll be keeping a close eye. Once it starts, we'll give you and put you right in the front row seat in getting to know all of the information and the finalization of the electoral process. Thanks so much, everyone, for being such a good company. When the results are completed, we'll be back and keep the dial here. I'm Sean Kimale on behalf of the team. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Bye-bye.